Do you guys see that? The time right now, 1:11. I also noticed this morning, I looked up at the clock and it was 11:11. And it's days like today that I just feel, I'm on the lookout for signs from spirits, past family members, something, because it's not coincidence that you see these repeating numbers and signs, and it happens to me all the time. And for today, for me to see both of those, my aunt was over here cleaning this morning, and she confirmed for us, guys. I went out to Dad's the other night, and we did a session on the name of a character who lived on the same property as my dad's house that I never knew. I'd never heard of his name before that night. My aunt said there was an old fella. He lived in a falling down shack on the same property your dad built his house on, and his name was Bill Mckee. And my aunt and her friend used to go visit him. She told me, he was a lonely old fella, and he used to give us candy. So when I went out and I did the session, I asked him, Bill, are you here? Are you around? We got answers. If you guys have not seen that video, we got some amazing answers. And this is what he had to say about giving the kids candy. I don't know if they've said it or not already, but I will tell you, the old guy that lived here, he was in his 80s, was Bill Mckee. That was the name my aunt gave me. And when she was a kid, he used to come and, they used to come and visit him, and he would give them candy. He loved kids coming around. He was lonely. My dad used to come up here and visit him because there's a little creek down here, and my dad used to come trout fishing up here. And I don't know if he ever gave any fish to old Bill. Bill, are you here? Did my dad ever catch any fish in the creek and give them to you? So as you can see, he clearly said caramel and pop. So I asked my aunt when she was here today, can you confirm this? Aunt Angie is here, and I was just asking her about Bill Mckee. Now we asked him, she told me that he used to give her candy when he was a little kid, but she never said what kind of candy. So I asked him that night, and it clearly said caramel and pop. Did Bill ever give you those?
Many times. Caramel, pop, you name it, gum, but always candy. Always gave us treats for going to visit him.
Yeah, I mean, that is confirmation. She was a little kid with her friend Laura. They would go visit him. Aunt Angie said that they used to bring him trout out of the creek, which I didn't know, and I asked him about that night. I said, did my dad ever bring you trout? I never got an answer. But that's just how people were back then, right? You went and saw the old guy. Would he have been mid-80s? Or...
I would say he was old.
Yeah. So anyway, that blows my mind, guys. Confirmation from Aunt Angie right there. He did give those kids caramel candies and pop.
Yes, he did.
So as my aunt and I were talking about that, it blew both our minds. Okay? I'm going to be honest. I believe in the spirituality stuff that we do here with the spirit boxes. I believe that both my brother and I are connected to something. We get answers. We know things that we shouldn't. And I mentioned that to my aunt, and she just chuckled. She said, well, we all do. She said, I feel the exact same. She said, my whole life. She said, I've never questioned it. I should have filmed the session with my aunt, but she didn't want to be on camera. And man, she told me a couple amazing stories. And I want to pass on one of them to you guys because we talked about this before, the grace of God. Okay, when we were talking about the road less traveled, which was written by Scott Peck, who was a psychologist who wanted to bring spirituality into psychology to explain a lot of the things that were happening in people's lives and stories that he heard that everyone else was dismissing. And he said, you can't dismiss these things. And what we're talking about is people who survived things they shouldn't have survived. Okay, a car wreck where the whole car is destroyed and only the spot where that person was sitting was left. I actually had that happen to a cousin of mine, okay? Totally destroyed the car. It was beyond demolished. He survived, and the only spot in that car was the seat in which he was sitting. It was inexplicable to us at the time how he survived that. And then I read this book later, and they talk about that exact scenario. And so I mentioned this to my aunt. I said, Scott Peck labeled this the grace of God. But the question remained and was asked by Scott, is this something we do as humans? Oh, I just got a full shiver down the back of my neck. Acknowledgement from somebody. Oh yeah, we're going to do a spirit session. Don't you worry. The question remained and was asked, is this something we do ourselves to protect ourselves in these situations? Is this something done by other spirits? Past family members, guardian angels? Is this something done by God? Or are we God, our higher selves? A lot of questions remain as to what is causing it, but we do know that it is caused and happens all over the world many times over. Okay, this grace of God. And my aunt had a story, and she told me that my uncle took her fishing one time, and they had an old standard truck. And you could start a standard truck by rolling it down a hill. If you lost your keys, you could bump start it, just like an old dirt bike, right? And she told me they were fishing, and the truck was parked on a hill, and my uncle told her to go up and turn the lights on. It was getting dark down at the lake. They wanted to gather up their stuff, and he said, go turn the headlights on in the truck. And my aunt reached into the truck, and I don't know what she did. She turned the key the wrong way, she said, and the truck started rolling down the hill. I don't know how that would cause the truck to start rolling, just from the... This is what she said, and her arm was stuck, so she was getting dragged behind the truck. She said she was only dragged about 12 or 15 feet, and a tree came up, and it was about 10 inches between the truck door, where she was hanging, stuck, and the tree. And she said the tree just scraped her right off. Pulled her out, pulled her arm out, and the truck continued to roll on down into the lake, I believe. And they also said, you know, she wasn't hurt. She got up, dusted herself off, and she had a couple bruises. And she said that it was a miracle. She always knew from the moment it happened that somebody had helped her out there, because she should have been crushed by the tree or be dragged down into the lake and drowned. And neither one of those things happened. It was the strangest thing. She said how it just gently scraped her right off without hurting her, you know, pinning her legs or anything in between the truck and the tree. You would think that that would be what would happen. What are the chances that you just get scraped off and not get hurt? And that made me think and retell her the story about me metal detecting and falling down that rocky roadside cliff here with John this summer. Whoa, you okay? Did you hit your head, Gary? That's where my head stopped, right there against that rock. Oh, thank goodness. That could have been so much worse than it was. I should have smashed my face in on those rocks. I got up, dusted myself off. You know, I actually slid into a rock, knocked myself out. I had a little scrape on my face. Had I been 6 inches forward of that, I would have came down to that rock. I'd be dead. And I didn't even get hurt. And John was saying, you know, how did you not break an ankle or an arm? Or like when I tumbled down there, it wasn't pretty, guys. And I know it's happened. There goes shiver down my neck again. Somebody's watching out for us. That's all I have to say. The third thing I want to talk about in this video, which is what we're going to do the spirit session on here. My aunt said, I also have a mystery that we need to solve. You guys have heard about my great-great-grandfather and my great-great-grandmother. We did sessions out at the old farm. Well, she showed me a picture, and I can't find it on the computer, or I would show you guys. Their gravestone was damaged and replaced in 2008. My aunt said when she was a teenager, she used to go into that cemetery, and they shared one stone, Grandma and Grandpa, in loving memory of, and then the names, Della and Henry, in loving memory of Mom and Dad. And it had their, you know, the year they died, 1890. One of them was 1880 something to 1970. The other one was 1890 something to 1973. Somewhere along the line, this stone got damaged. We don't know how, so this is part of the mystery. How did the stone get damaged? Was it by them working in the cemetery, the people digging who maintain the cemetery, something like that? And then the stone was replaced in 2008. The strange thing is, she showed me a picture of the stone now. It only has great-great-grandma's name, Della. It's like my grandfather has been erased from the stone. So she was asking me how this worked, and I said, well, I don't know. I said, I don't think the cemetery voluntarily replaces stones when they get damaged, because there are a lot of damaged stones in the cemetery. I said, unless maybe they damaged it and said, hey, well, we drove a backhoe over this and crushed this stone or something, okay? That's the only thing I can think of. So that's part of the mystery is how did it get damaged? The second part is who replaced it? We don't know who. It wasn't in the records. It didn't say. And, so it leads to this question of, we were trying to think, is there any bad blood in the family where somebody would say, oh, Grandpa was a bad man for some reason and not put him back on the stone? And we can't think of anything, okay? So Grandpa was pretty normal. Grandma was pretty normal. They both should be on that stone. We don't know how it got damaged. We don't know who replaced it. And then the other mystery is, I said, I looked at this picture she showed me of where the headstone was, and it was off to the right. So Grandma Della's was off to the right. And I said, there's room there for a second stone. Did they put in a second stone? Did it disappear? Or was it ordered and never put in? It almost looked like they wanted to put in two stones. One for Grandpa, one for Grandma. And the one for Grandpa is not there. So let's do a little spirit box session, ask some of these questions, and see what we get for answers. So the other night using Necrophonic, I told you guys, I don't like to just leave it without any reverb because the words get cut off. I don't like the echo because it repeats everything. However, I did notice in the editing process the other night, I got the coolest answers when it was set to echo because there would be like a whole sentence in there. And it would repeat itself and you would hear multiple things going on at the same time. I also found that the session I did at Dad's the other night, they were very good at giving answers that didn't talk over each other. So when I show you guys a session like this, everything is in the order that I recorded. I'm not cutting and pasting to make this make sense. I will cut out if there's a big gap or there's nothing being said or if it's all talking over top of each other and I can't make heads or tails of it. I'll cut some of that stuff out. When we turn this on, can we get the name of my great-great-grandfather? Is he here? Can I talk to him? And after I said all that, I forgot to turn the reverb on. So we're getting those short, chopped answers. I did hear my grandfather's name, but not the grandfather I'm after. And just because we ask for somebody to come through doesn't mean that there aren't a whole bunch of them waiting to give us messages and things. Quite often, they go off on a tangent, and I don't show you guys if they give me personal messages. I cut those out as well. And I do get a lot of personal stuff that talks about my brother or my dad. It'll say our names and it'll say something, and it makes sense, okay? If I'm fighting with my brother and it says get along, it makes sense to me, okay? I cut that out, but it wouldn't make sense to any of you guys. I get the message, I receive it. Let's turn the reverb on. Let's try that again. I'm looking to talk to my great-great-grandfather about his gravestone. Is he here? Grandpa Henry, what year did you die? Okay, we'll try the echo. So it's going to repeat, guys. But sometimes I get cool answers in there. What cemetery were great-great-grandma and great-great-grandpa buried in? I heard it say licorice, which is weird because my aunt and I were talking about Bill Mckee and the candies that he used to give them. And she said, oh, he used to give us all kinds of things This was before I recorded the little session for you guys. She said, oh, he'd give us jelly beans and licorice. They're kind of like the gross candy. If the kids get that nowadays, they're too picky. What do you think of that, Bill? Are you here, Bill? Do you think that the kids today are too picky?
No.
That's the second time that I've heard Carol. Okay, and we keep hearing that in a lot of our videos because we did a murder mystery series and Carol was one of the victims who got murdered.
B.
That was a man's voice. Last week... And they were shot. Oh, there's the hairs on the back of my neck. Just went up there for the first time. Carol, are you here? Do you have something you want to tell us? Oh, full body shiver. I thought I heard Carol again, and there I just heard Jack. It was Jack and Carol that were both shot that night. Oh, back on the North River. Full body shivers.
Slime.
Okay, so I want to acknowledge Jack and Carol. We get it. You guys are coming through. We know your story. Appreciate you guys coming through. Okay, guys, I am trying to analyze the session that we just did with what I thought was going to be the mystery about my grandfather's headstone, but as you can see, we were waylaid by Jack and Carol, and this is mind-blowing stuff, okay? How is the box coming up with true life names and events that happened? You know, people keep saying, oh, the phone listens to you. We haven't talked about this in 6 months, okay? There is nothing that has been mentioned about these characters, and here they are coming through and telling us again the horror story. They're describing in detail what happened to them. And every time they come in and, you know, interject the original video that we did, and then afterwards they came in some other videos, I pieced together more and more things about what happened. You know, there was an apparent mafia connection here with the family in town. And in another video, they interjected, and there was a male voice that said, how many guns are you going to get me? And the female voice said, 100. And then in this video, it says, Carol robbed us. You know, so is that what happened? That's what they're telling us happened. That, you know, Carol and Jack were hanging with nefarious people doing bad things. And if we can believe what they say, they were running guns, probably drugs. You know, Carol crossed... whoever, I forget the guy, Donnelly, who shot them. She robbed them. And this is what happened. And I mean, I can't, just the shivers thinking, guys, it was, the spirit box was making smacking noises. Okay? Smacking noises. It said that her hair caught on fire when they shot her. Is that possible? You know? Could you, if you shot somebody close enough? I don't even want to think. These are details that they're telling me. I mean, if you're a CSI investigator, this seems pretty damn real. And I did not sit down to do this session today to talk about this, and this is what came through. The spirits had a different idea, and this is what we got, guys. And to me, that is the most convincing, is that this isn't what we sat down to talk about, but this is what we got. I'm not here to force anybody to believe, but man, I'll tell you, I believe. This is some crazy shit right here. Crazy shit.